Welcome back. We'll now start our next committee, which is the Committee on Lake Whatcom Reservoir and Natural Resources. Councilmember Dan Hamill is the chair.
Thank you, Michael. I'm joined this afternoon with Council Members Knudsen and Borneman. We have two items before us this afternoon. The first item is Washington Conservation Corps end-of-year presentation. I'll just read the summary statement here. Over the last 15 years, Bellingham citizens have benefited from the city's relationship with the Washington Conservation Corps. The Public Works Department currently sponsors 2 crews through a joint funding agreement with the Washington State Department of Ecology and federal AmeriCorps program. The crews have been crucial to the success of the city's habitat restoration efforts. This presentation given by the conservation crew members will showcase program benefits, including the crew's contributions to the local community, their environmental restoration efforts, and the financial benefits of the program.
Excellent. Mayor? Thank you. Oh.
I just want to say one thing. Can I say something?
Yeah.
Ted, is it okay?
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
I just wanted to add that we had the pleasure of having lunch for Clawson and I with the conservation crew. Was it a couple weeks ago?
On the eclipse.
On the day of the eclipse, yep. And there's that enthusiasm, and their future plans are so impressive that I'm really glad that we're able to take advantage of their services here in the city of Bellingham.
Hi, Annalise Byrne, Public Works Natural Resources. I'm the Habitat and Restoration Manager. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to come and speak before you. I especially feel fortunate that I get to work every day with these 18 to 25-year-olds. They're incredibly talented and passionate and at the beginning of their careers, and I can tell that they have a promising road ahead of them, and we get to be part of that foundation for them. But in addition, I think that part of what makes Bellingham special and the reason why we like to live here has to do with the open spaces and clean water and the returning fish that we still have in our city. And that isn't possible to keep it at the level we have and keep improving it without these 12 individuals that their sole job day in and day out all year long is to be out there on the ground doing that hard work. So I'm excited they get to show you what they've been doing this past year. And again, this is the 16th crew, or 16th team crew. So we've had a long history with them and benefited for many years. Do you want to go ahead and come on down? They're going to tell you what they've done in their own words. The person who will kick it off will be Paul Argytis, and he's one of our Conservation Corps crew supervisors. The Washington Conservation Corps is a Washington program that is an AmeriCorps program, and he can explain a little bit more. Paul.
Great. Thank you very much for having us. It's great to be here. Like Annalise said, I'm Paul Argytis. I'm a crew supervisor with the Washington Conservation Corps. I oversee one of the City of Bellingham Corps crews. The WCC is a Washington State Department of Ecology organization, and our 2 crews work within the City of Bellingham Public Works Department, Natural Resources Division. This is my 2nd year as a crew supervisor. I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in Environmental Science from Western Washington University, and I've been living in Bellingham for 11 years now. Next slide.
Just to let folks know, we have 2 broken projectors, so our apologies.
Yeah, so up there, that's my crew, and they'll be introducing themselves as they come up to the microphone.
My name is Lyle Scar, and I have been with the Washington Conservation Corps crew sponsored by the City of Bellingham for the last 5 years. This is my crew up here, and like Paul said, they'll be introducing themselves. The WCC is an AmeriCorps program that came to work with the city following the Whatcom Creek fire. The city has had 2 crews ever since, with the exception of this year, when my crew spent 6 months working for Washington State Parks and 6 months with the City of Bellingham. The 2 crews will now tell you about the many projects we worked on over the last year.
Here we have the city's legacies and strategic commitments adopted by the City Council in 2009. We've organized our presentation to accommodate these 9 topic areas. It's important to note that some of our projects, such as planting trees in the watershed, would be under healthy environment as well as clean, safe drinking water. It's also good to note that we do not touch on all of these areas.
So a majority of the restoration sites that we work on are located in riparian areas along Whatcom, Squalicum, and Padden Creeks, and also a bunch of other smaller creek systems within the city limits. We also manage a few sites in the Lake Whatcom watershed as well. And in total, we maintain 70 unique sites, which encompass 125 acres of City of Bellingham-owned property.
Hi there, I'm Skylar Specht, and I'm a Western Washington University graduate, and I'm a native to Olympia, Washington. So since about 2001, the City of Bellingham has acquired property in the Lake Whatcom watershed to protect from development, and this is a great way to help promote clean and safe drinking water. The Lake Whatcom watershed provides clean drinking water for nearly 100,000 residents in Whatcom County. And watershed protection is one of the most basic ways, basic steps to ensuring that our water is clean. Along with that, natural forest cover is a great way to protect water quality. Pollutants and excess nutrients are processed and filtered out as they move through the forest and drain into our streams and our lakes. For Lake Whatcom, excess phosphorus entering the lake has been an issue, and it has contributed to algal blooms and dissolved oxygen deficits as well. And our crews have contributed nearly 3,000 hours of work this year planting and maintaining sites in the Lake Whatcom watershed. And this is one of our sites, Yui. Yui is our biggest site at 47 acres. It's a slope site. You can kind of see it slopes down to Lake Whatcom. Slope site that drains directly into the lake, and our crews planted about 3,500 plants there this year. Zobrist is another one of our sites, a big site at 21 acres, and Anderson Creek runs through this site. As water is routed from the Middle Fork Nooksack into Mirror Lake, it then flows through the Anderson Creek corridor and into Lake Whatcom. And it's really important that we keep this site vegetated and have an established riparian zone, because the water that filters and then drains into the creek eventually makes its way into Lake Whatcom and is our drinking water.
Hi, my name is Callie Herman, and I am a graduate of Western Washington University as well, and I've been in Bellingham for 6 years now. So this year we planted over 20,000 native species throughout our restoration sites. We chose a species based on site characteristics such as how wet does the area get, how much sun, or how good is the soil quality. For example, we planted shade-tolerant conifers like Douglas firs and western red cedars at previously established sites to promote secondary growth. Other species prefer open sunny areas such as red alders, which can withstand droughts as well as floods. Once we choose a variety of native species well suited to a specific site, we spent hours depotting them, transporting them, and planting them from the fall into the start of spring. We also removed a bunch of invasive species from our sites as well. We use numerous methods to do so, such as cutting seed heads, applying the herbicide glyphosate, and fully removing the roots. Invasives that were frequently removed or treated were Himalayan blackberry, Bohemian knotweed, and poisonous hemlock, to name a few. Removing invasive species is important because it improves habitat by increasing the availability of nutrients, water, and sunlight for native plants.
Hi, I'm Carly Perez. I'm from Enumclaw, Washington, and I graduated from Pacific Lutheran University. And this is my first year with the WCC. So one of the really important things that we need to do to help with restoration is site maintenance. It's something that we do during the spring and the summertime. It's just to make sure that the native plants that we installed during the winter and fall aren't going to be taken over and choked out, and they actually have a chance to grow. This could include, site maintenance could include brush cutting, weed pulling, plant watering, herbicide application, trail upkeep, mulching, tree thinning, and social trail obliteration. Another thing that is important to restoration, especially for our streams, is monitoring, and we do a lot of that with our crew. One that I personally helped with was stream temperature monitoring. We collected air and water temperature data using temp collectors called tidbits, and you can see them, the little orange round guy. We had them at 8 sites along Whatcom Creek and 3 sites along Cemetery Creek. And this research creates a good metric for future restoration projects, and it helps determine how long it takes restored creeks to recover and what we may need to focus on in our continued efforts to restore these creeks. For example, we may find we need to plant more trees along banks to promote shade, which will cool down the streams, which is good for salmon.
Hello, my name is Mackenzie Wilkinson. I'm a University of Wisconsin River Falls graduate, and this is my first year with the Washington Conservation Corps. One example of the WCC's contribution to the healthy environment legacy is by doing weekly hydrology surveys. We surveyed the flow of water in Padden and Whatcom Creeks, focusing on a reach of Padden Creek, which included the daylight section, and a section of Whatcom that included the reroute section. We monitored when and where these reaches dried up in the summer or had water returned to them in the winter. And the information we collected illustrates when our urban creeks are fish passable to spawning salmon. And the city also uses this information to evaluate how these newly created stream channels are improving overall stream health and riparian habitat for our salmon. With the city as our sponsor, we have the opportunity to do a lot of different projects. And our projects can align with many different of the legacies. But the ones that I chose to highlight today all happen to fall within the healthy environment legacy. So for example, some crew members participated in macroinvertebrate surveys on several creeks throughout the city. Macroinvertebrates are small insect-like creatures that live in streams and are a very good indicator of overall stream health. Both crews also participated in forage fish surveys near the mouth of Little Whatcom Creek. Forage fish are small fish that lay their eggs in the sand, and they are a very important food source for salmon. So we collected sand samples and then processed our samples and looked at under the microscope at our samples looking for these really tiny little eggs. And another project we assisted with was cleaning fish ladders on creeks throughout the city. The fish ladders are cleared of large woody debris and excessive sediment buildup every 3 years so that salmon can pass through the ladders and have access to spawning habitat upstream. And lastly, another important project we contributed to was planting the Padden Creek Estuary Water Quality Facility site, where we installed approximately 200 plants. The water quality facility's purpose is to filter storm runoff from the greater Fairhaven area, and this site can filter up to 85% of priority pollutants before it enters the Padden Estuary.
Hello, my name is Victoria Clawson. This is the second year with WCC. Another project completed this year was a replacement bridge on a public trail off of the Lake Whatcom watershed. The previous bridge was from an old logging road, and the materials used were decaying and full of creosote. So we removed the hazard bridge by using an excavator and rebuilt a footbridge with environmentally friendly materials. On the Padden daylighting, we restored a stream habitat where a house used to be by replanting and fencing it off. And this year, I helped with the stream change monitoring project for the Public Works by surveying the Whatcom reroute to determine if rainfall interfered with the new stream's original course.
Hello, my name is Katie Hayes. I'm from Boise, Idaho. I've been with WCC for a year and a half. Quick fixes. So part of maintaining a healthy environment means doing general upkeep and restoration areas on a regular basis. An example of this could be putting up beaver cages around young, vulnerable trees or removing a fallen log over Whatcom Creek to prevent access to social trails and also prevent potential impact on riparian areas.
My name is Mitch Metcalf. I'm from Marysville, Washington. I'm a Western grad. This was my first year with WCC, and I look forward to coming back next year for a second year. The City of Bellingham hosts a unique blend of urban and natural spaces. Much of our work is done at these intersections of built and natural environments, especially in and alongside our creeks. Throughout Paddon Creek, there are several culverts and fish ladders connecting Lake Paddon to Bellingham Bay. Every week this year, we have visited a couple of the fishways in Paddon to monitor flow for potential fish passage. We measure water height and photograph the flow year-round to ensure there are no barriers to returning salmon. With all the time and money the city's invested in projects such as the Paddon Daylighting and Squalicum Reroute, it's vitally important for us to monitor these areas to assess the growth of our restoration sites and the salmon habitat we've worked tirelessly to improve. One way we do this is with salmon spawner surveys. These are done once a week from September to April to look for spawning salmon and trout as well as their egg beds or redds. This last year, we surveyed Connolly Creek, Paddon Creek, and Squalicum Creek. Our data give us an understanding of which species are using our creeks, how abundant they are, and the timing of their migration. The surveys also give us a chance to keep track of a few areas we have planted and maintained along the creeks.
So being a part of the WCC program, we get 3 days where we get to interact with the community. One of which was in October, Make a Difference Day. It was a nationwide day of service dedicated to improving lives and communities. We partnered with the Parks Department and the NC crew to facilitate a planting party at Little Squalicum Creek Park along Willow Springs, which is a tributary to Squalicum Creek. The site that we planted used to be an airport, then it was a gravel pit, and then it was a cement plant, and now is a really awesome and thriving restoration site and recreation site. So highly recommend you go visit it.
Following that one, we had 2 more days of national and community service. Both WCC crews contributed time to our MLK Day and Earth Day. On MLK Day, both crews went to the American Red Cross building where we helped to renovate the interior after volunteering with the Red Cross, both crews split up and went to 2 of the Hagen stores where we held a baby food drive and successfully collected over 300 pounds of canned baby food, which the food bank then took. After MLK, our last day of national and community service was Earth Day, where one crew went to the Beta Baker Trail, where we teamed up with Public Works and Parks Department to place over 200 plants into the ground. We also had the opportunity to assist and teach from children to adults how to properly plant and how to use proper planting techniques.
Access to quality of life amenities means maintaining and enhancing publicly owned assets, as well as ensuring convenient access to parks and trails citywide. This includes trash pickup, pruning and brush clearing, social trail obliteration, weeding, and the planting of native species. Maritime Heritage Park Boardwalk and Red Tail Reach Trail are 2 examples of parks and trails we've maintained. This year was a unique year for the City of Bellingham WCC crews because half of us had the opportunity to spend 50% of our year working with Washington State Parks. We visited a variety of state parks in the Northwest region doing trail work, trail maintenance, fire pit installation, historic building preservation, and fence construction. Working with the state parks was a rewarding learning experience that allowed us to travel to the state parks in our Northwest region.
Hi, my name is Andrew Hacker. I'm an assistant supervisor with the crew and a graduate of Western Washington University. Part of our service to the city and AmeriCorps is our commitment to a safe and prepared community. One of the ways we do this is to be prepared for the possibility of an emergency response, whether it be a natural disaster or a wildfire. This has been a very active wildfire year, and I'm happy to say that 8 of us has been trained through our program to fight these fires. And between all of us, we've been deployed to 6 fires this season, ranging from a quarter acre to 48 acres big. Here we have a picture of us at Sumas Mountain and Bogler Lake near Concrete. We've been really happy to serve our community in this way. And that's all we have. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us. I think it's safe to say that we've had an excellent year. We'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee members. Mr. Borneman.
Yeah, no question, just a comment. I just want to thank all of you for the work that you've done. It amazes me every year when this group comes in and explains the varieties of projects that you do, because the things that you're doing are very valuable services to the community. And I just want to thank all of you for the hard work and dedication that you're doing for the city of Bellingham. Thank you.
Mr. Knutson.
Thank you very much also. I'll repeat everything Terry said. Thank you.
I've got multiple council members here. Councilmember Murphy.
So a lot of the work that you did is very near and dear to my heart as a member of the Nooksack Indian tribe. So much of what you're doing is so supportive of our environment, and it's work that our tribes do every day for water quality, water assessment. And I always say, if you really want to know how our society is doing, ask the fish and the shellfish. So I want to really thank you for standing by the fish and the shellfish. And I also hope that the experiences that you're gaining will serve you so well throughout your life and your career.
Councilmember Lillquist.
Yeah, again, thank you to the 2 crews this year, and I'm really grateful we've had actually crews over the last more than a decade. Hope we continue to do it. I just have a small question. Whoever talked about the spawning surveys, Connolly Creek, what do you find? That's a really small and dry creek sometimes. Are there fish getting up there, spawning, and what do you see?
We monitor Connolly Creek, a very small section of it, from its confluence with Padden Creek to about where it meets Wilson Avenue. We have found a few salmon and trout in there. I think it was around November last year. Yeah, it's not as abundant as some of the other creeks, but once a community member spotted a fish along Connolly Creek, we added it to our surveys.
Cool.
Councilmember Barker.
You know, we named our waterfront park Waypoint Park because we know that Bellingham is a stopping point for some, and that some of you hopefully will be able to stay in our community. But I think this is just a great opportunity for us to highlight what our college students and our college grads are out there doing. We hear some negative things on housing and those, but you are a very important and valued part of our community. I know that you've graduated and you're moving on to things like this and beyond, but I'm really glad that you got to participate in our community, but also all of the amazing things that you've given back. So hopefully some of you will decide to stay here and maybe even take on the city of Bellingham as a job, but thank you so much for all that you've done.
Okay. I just wanted to acknowledge the work that you do. The work that you do has substantial and direct impacts on our environment, our drinking water, wildlife, and salmon. And in my book, you are heroes. Thank you for the work that you do. Okay. We have one more item in this committee that was for information only. We have one more item. This is in regards to the Middle Fork Nooksack River Fish Passage. The city's diversion dam on the Middle Fork Nooksack River blocks fish passage to the upper watershed. Several initiatives to design and fund construction of a fish passable facility have been unsuccessful. Recently, the Paul Allen Foundation granted funding to American Rivers to work with the city towards removal of the fish passage barrier and construction of an alternative water supply intake structure. The city and its original project partners, the Lummi Nation, the Nooksack Tribe, and the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife will now work with American Rivers' experienced dam removal staff to complete project design and seek the funding needed for construction. I believe Ted Carlson's here to take us through this.
Yes, thank you. Ted Carlson, Public Works Department. As Councilmember Hamill mentioned, this is for information only, and I think the summary statement did a pretty good job of providing some background. As Council is aware, the diversion dam is an integral part of the city's water drinking system. but it also is a barrier. It's a fish passage barrier in the Middle Fork of the Nooksack River, and we recognize that, have been working for over a decade on a potential solution to remove the dam, either partially remove the dam or fully remove the dam, while building a new intake structure that would allow the city to still utilize water from the Middle Fork as part of our drinking water system. We've had at least 2 processes that we've gone through in the past to try to identify a good working solution that would accomplish the goal of opening up the area above the dam to fish habitat, but still function and function effectively as intake for our drinking water system. We're very happy, although we didn't find a solution previously, we're happy to build on those past experiences and have the partnership with American Rivers and the Paul Allen Foundation, nearly $3 million to help with design and a portion of the construction of a new facility. So with this agreement, we'll start working on the design, spend most of 2018 designing a new facility, going through the designing and permitting process, and hopefully have a permitted project as we go through about middle of 2019. At this point, we don't have all of the funding identified for construction of the new facility, but that's certainly part of the scope of work to, once we have a project identified, a fully scoped, designed, permitted project, as we move through that process, continue to work and look through for construction funding as we move down that road. So very excited. We've got a project engineer assigned to this. American Rivers has project folks assigned to this project, so we're certainly putting the resources towards moving forward with design. Claire Fogelsong is here to answer any questions that you might have about either the current agreement or what we've done in the past on the Middle Fork in relation to the diversion facility.
Committee members? Councilmember Borneman.
Yeah, just want to say I'm really happy to hear that we've got that Paul Allen grant, and I hope this time we are able to put it together. This has been a long process that we've gone through to try, attempting to do this, and let's hope this time we're able to put it all together, because it's great, has great potential.
Councilmembers. Councilmember Murphy.
Just a dream that so many from our tribe have had for a very, very long time. So I really want to thank all the partners, and it's always been a question of money. And so I'm so grateful that the partnership has come forward in this way, and all the work that's going to get done. You know, the fish tell the story, and we have to listen to them.
Just a timeline question on this. Going into 19 would be, I'm sorry if I missed this, Mr. Carlson, but that would be actually implementation of the project, assuming all the funding lines up. Is that correct?
Yeah, the timeline that has been identified by American Rivers and city staff would anticipate fully designed and permits in hand by June of 2019, ready to go out to bid and through the construction process. Now that assumes we have the funding available to do that. But if we are successful in 2018 and early 19 identifying the balance of the construction funds, the timeline that we've identified would have us moving forward with construction mid-2019.
If I might,
sure.
One of the assets that American Rivers brings to this partnership now is a funding coordinator. So we have a funding plan that she's put together, and we'll be thinking about being as creative as we can as we go through the funding, this funding ask cycle. It's really unique to have a private sector organization step forward with this much money to fund a project like this. So we're hoping that the buzz that it's created will add value to how we seek additional funding. So,
what I know about salmonoid populations could fill a thimble, so very little. How does this work in terms of repopulation once the dam is removed?
We've seen the example here in the Northwest of the Elwha when they took it down, and they've had immediate results with salmon coming back in quite large numbers. So taking that as our goal, I'm hoping that we would have the same kind of results. I think you see throughout salmon country that when you when you remove a barrier, they'll find the habitat above that barrier.
And how many miles of habitat above the barrier are we talking about?
Well, that's a good question. There's about 26 miles of combined riparian stream habitat and main stem habitat in the Middle Fork. So it'll depend on how much that is used. There's estimates that it'll at least be 13 miles of habitat, but it could be the whole 26 that the salmon will find something to do in that habitat. So,
okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, this was for information only. End of committee.
Thanks, Dan. The next committee will be the Parks and Recreation Committee. We'll take a brief